Okay, guys, chapter 13 is ready. What we have here is the final frontier, the final battle, Satan's last ditch effort to do what happened when Jesus came, right? So we've gotten through half of the tribulation. His servant, the Antichrist, is able to, because God takes the protection off of the two servants, the Antichrist is able to kill the two servants, parties off for 3 days, 3.5 days. We've read all that. Then God says, oh yeah, watch this. Raises them from the dead, takes them up to heaven where everybody sees it, right? This is the defeat of the Antichrist. Well, Satan can't have that. The man, his pride, it's crushed. The spirit of Satan within him is crushed. How are we going to overcome this? This is the story of how he's going to overcome, right? God's miracle. I'm going to overcome it with my own miracles. And what does he do that God has never done? He transfers all of his authority, all his throne, everything that he can do. He indwells this person at that time, right? And I don't get into the speculation of the wound that was the wound to the head that was healed, but we're going to see miracles from this guy. Does he get slain? Does he die and he's resurrected with Satan's soul in him? Or, however it happens, Satan indwells this guy. I can envision the pride of this man crushed when these two people are risen up. I can envision him bending the knee to Satan and saying, hey, I've done everything you've said. This didn't work. The whole world just saw God do a miracle. What are we going to do about it, Satan? And he opens himself up to be indwelled at that moment, right? And Satan says, okay, let your soul move out. Let me and my soldiers, my 7 heads come into you and take you over and run it from here. And he goes, I want that glory. Give it to me. And so I see a conjoining of these two, the spirit and the man, which God has never done. God has never transferred his throne, his authority, never done it. So you're going to see a story of how mankind is deceived because they don't take the one thing Jesus said, I'm going to leave this with you, right? It's the protection against everything you're going to read in chapter 13. I'm going to ask God and he's going to give it to you. It's going to be the Spirit of truth. The Spirit of truth will be your advocate, right? It's literally your defense attorney. It's the guy you go to and say, hey, I don't understand what's going on here, right? How are you deceived? In chapter 13, everybody's deceived because they're listening to a man. They're not using the gift God gave them, right? We saw all of the deception within the church because they're deceived by man. Remember when Jesus said to the Pharisees, you're raising twice the demons you are? That wasn't an anti-Semitic statement. That was you as humans. And he could have said it to Gentiles. He could have said it to some of the preachers in the United States of America today. I looked at a statement from a Baptist church in Greece. He could say it to that church. You're raising twice the demons you are, right? People, we all get misled when we give up our gift. Just like Adam gave up his gift, dominion over the earth, to Satan. This is what Satan got to do with it, right? Hold on to this dominion God gave you, the Holy Spirit. Hold on to it. That's my prayer for all of us while we go through this. So, that said, let's dive into chapter 13. Let's read the whole thing. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns. and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power, and his throne, and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and had followed the beast. People worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they had also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" The beast was given a mouth to utter words, proud words, and blasphemies, and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Whoever has ears, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. All right, verses 1 through 4. We're going to reread it, and then we're going to break it down. You know, I'd much rather be doing a Bible study on Matthew, but let's go. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw the beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshiped the dragon because he had given power and authority to the beast. And they also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" All right, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and jump us over to dissection of verse 1. Let's go. Okay, guys, let's see how Daniel describes this beast that's coming up out of the sea, the final beast. Let's see how he describes it. We get it in 7:8, and then we get it in 7 19 and 723. He's going to give us three different perspectives of this same beast, and let's see what it says. Verse 8. While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and three of the first horns were uprooted before it. The horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being, and a mouth that spoke boastfully. In 19. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others and most terrifying. With its iron teeth and bronze claws, the beast that crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and about the other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell. The horn that looked more imposing than the others, and that had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them, until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people of the Most High. And the time came, they possessed the kingdom. He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is a fourth kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from the kingdom. After them, another king will arise, different from the earlier ones, and he will subdue 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time, times, and a half a time. So that's from Daniel 7. Let's look at one more description. Okay, here we're going to look at Luke 4, 5 through 7. And I know I'm running you guys through a bunch of verses. And we're trying to build an image of who this beast is, because it's different from the beast with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns that's mentioned in chapter 12. This is the dragon standing on the shore in the very verse 1, right? He's standing on the shore. And up from the sea, and in chapter 17, we're going to see the sea is described also, or it is described as a group of people. So out of a group of people is, if you use chapter 17 to define what the sea is, it's a sea of people. It's a body of people. Out of the sea comes this beast with 7 heads, 10 horns, and on the horns are the crowns. Okay? So this is different than the description we're given in chapter 12. And it's super important that we understand the difference, right? The dragon is the beast of chapter 12. The crowns are on the heads, and the horns are on the heads, right? So this is, in chapter 12, we're looking at the body of Satan's power, his what do you call it, government, his authority. We're looking at something like God and his angels in Satan's kingdom, right? So this is his spiritual kingdom that we're looking at back in 12. It's different in 13. In 13, he's going to do something different. And I wanted to read to you Luke 4, 5 through 7. And we're going to do all this breakdown, but it's important that we understand what this kingdom of Satan and his power and his authority is going to be called out here, and what is that power and authority, right? So the dragon's going to give his power and authority over to this similar looking beast, right? It's the beast with 7 heads. Okay. So what is this power and authority? Let's look at Luke 4, 5 through 7. And the devil said to him, all this power and glory of those kingdoms will I give you, for that is delivered to me, and to whomever I will give it. Therefore, if you will worship me, they will all be yours. Okay? Now, this is Satan talking to Jesus, and he's saying, I can give you all of this because it's been granted to me. And what did we go through when Jesus took back? He says, I paid the price. I have the authority to take this seven sealed scroll from God the judge. I have the authority, right? I've paid the price. We're looking at that authority being granted by this land deed that's described there. Okay. So it's the authority to rule over man, to be the king of earth, to be the antithesis opposite of man's God here on earth, right? Okay. What did Jesus say to Satan when Satan offered all this up? Let's go to Luke 4:8. Jesus answered him and said, Get behind me, Satan, for it is written, You shall worship the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve. Right? I think it's important. When you go back to chapter 12, look at how Michael the archangel and the angels defeated Satan, evicting him from heaven, right? And look at the time frame that I believe we're on here. This is a time period of the tribulation. It looks to be where the ruler of the world has the moment of transfer. So this is when Satan gives him all of his authority, right? So who wore the crown in chapter 12? Right? The crown, which we defined as a kingdom, like it's probably not the British kingdom being described there, right? This is at the time when Moses was born, the time when Jesus is born, but it's a kingdom nonetheless. And we defined that in chapter 12. The horns are the trophies. Now we're looking at, but okay, Satan still owns the kings, the kingdoms. I'm sorry. So now we're looking at something different. Something's changed. Satan is going all in, right? You know, in the poker game, you push all your chips out to the middle. It's go time for Satan, right? So what's happened? Well, he was able to kill the two prophets, right? He was able to do it without giving over all of his authority. He's still sitting up here holding his authority, managing what we'll know as the Antichrist. Now he's managing him, but still holding back all of his authority. Well, now God raises up and raptures up these two people. Well, now, you know, the Antichrist doesn't look so big and beautiful anymore. And Satan's like, oh no, I have to win. So how does Satan go and reinvigorate the Antichrist, right? Because now the Antichrist is totally defeated. I did everything you said, Satan, and yet God defeated me. Okay, so now we're looking at something different. Now we're looking at Satan going, okay, hang on. I got one more card left to play, right? I'm going to transfer all of the kingdoms, all of the authority, and my throne to you. This is a big deal. This is a much bigger deal, right? And how does Daniel classify this? Daniel says it's the most terrifying beast is the description Daniel. This is the most terrifying, right? Satan himself and all of his demons are indwelling this new beast, right? This is the big one. We're going for the kill here, right? Satan's going, I'm all in, baby. Let's go. Let's push this thing, right? This is my last shot. So he does something dramatic in verses 1 through 4. So let's jump down to Daniel 12. How are we going to know it's this guy? It's interesting. Daniel 12, and I encourage you, if you want to try a mind-bending story, go to Daniel 12 and read it, right? Bring your notebook and your pencil. You're going to need it. You're going to be building timelines, and we'll tackle that one in a breakdown for you at a future date. It's a super interesting, in-depth travel through how this guy comes to power. But we've taken out some sections here for you. So in verse 21, and I'm not going to read the entire book of Daniel 12. It's a big one, but I've broken up a couple things so we can get the nature of this person. Like, we learned the nature of the heads of the beast in 12, or in Revelation 12. Let's look at what Daniel 12 says about the nature of this beast, this Antichrist, the one that's to come at the end. It says he's a vile person. He shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries, right? So, you know, the person that comes to you and gives you false flattery, right? And it boosts your ego. You know you didn't deserve that flattery, but people do it to manipulate us, right? To get us to dance to their music. First comes the flattery, then comes the request. So that's 21. 24. He shall do which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. With the brazen Satan himself living in him, his pride. Think of all these spirits that we described in the seven heads, right? All of this is confined now to one person, right? Seven heads, one beast, consuming one person. He's going to do some unbelievable things that Christians are just going to reel at. And I tell you, anybody with any moral character is just going to reel at the abominations that this guy's going to go and do. But they're all going to be self-serving, right? The service of sexual pleasure, the service of greed, the service of, all of the abominations that we described, right? They're all going to be in with this one person. And the ability to deceive is going to be massive. And he's going to flatter you to deceive you. And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength and shall take away the daily sacrifice. That's how we know. So I went down to 31. That's how we know that this is that middle time. This is when they set up the abomination of desolation that's described throughout in the temple. So that's Daniel 12. We're trying to understand the difference between this beast in 13 and the beast described in 12. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so let's jump down here to 5 through 10 and go back over this. In verse 5, the beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blaspheming, and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God, and to slander his name, and his dwelling place, and those who lived in heaven. Its power was to wage war against God's holy people, and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Whoever has ears, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patience, endurance, and faithfulness on the part of God's people. It's a tough one, huh? Right? You hear so often the media is trying to divide us. Gosh, it sounds like here Satan's going to divide and conquer, right? Those that are with him are fine. It'll go on here in a minute and, take his mark, right? We're going to get to that portion. But you're either going to worship God or Satan. There's no middle ground here anymore. You got to pick a side. And We're going to bring up a verse here in a minute that's going to give Christians a gut check. And this is where I feel we're being called out to say, are you really with me? Are you the bride I want to bring home to dad? Are you that person? Are you are you able to stand up in the face of the fire of the demon? Are you? You really? Now I know many Christians that love God with all their heart. Some of my own family, right? Love God with all their heart. Believe there's a rapture prior to all this. And I hope that there is. I hope that I'm wrong here. But that's just not what I'm reading. I'm reading, I need to know who you really are. I need to test your mettle. That's what I'm reading here. Uh, and again, my hope is for me, for my family, for my relatives, for my loved ones, that no one should have to endure this. But man, we read throughout the history of time. We read it going on right now where millions of Christians are being slain, right? It's going on. I just don't see how we all get to get a free pass. Those of us that have never had to suffer for our belief, I just, it looks to me like it's coming. But anyway, let's jump down to some verses that further explain verses 5 through 10. Okay, you guys, I really want to highlight here in verse 5 where we look at the beast from 12 to 13 and we see the crown on the head of the beast with the horn as the trophy of the beast. I want you to look at it here and see that we know this tribulation is 7 years. This description in verse 5 is 42 months. We're saying it's the second half of the tribulation. And at that point, it's given the authority. So we know that Satan's going to move the crown from his own head to the horn, to the crown on the horn, right? And so there's a transition where all of this authority and even the throne of Satan is given to this person, right? Okay, so let's read Daniel 12 and let's see what's happening here. And those who wickedly break the covenant shall he cause to sin with flattery. But the people who do know their God shall prevail and prosper. And those who understand among the people shall instruct many. Well, that sounds all good right now, right? If you studied the Bible and you're paying attention, people are going to have questions. What is this guy? Why is he able to do all of this? What is he asking me to do? And people are going to look for, because why? They're being made to make a decision. Am I going to follow the beast or am I going to follow God? Everybody has to make a decision. This isn't, now you get to hem-haw around on the fence, right? You're going to worship the beast, or the beast is going to try to enslave you or kill you, right? These are your two options. So people are going to, well, I need to decide, right? Let's finish verse 33. Still, they shall fall by sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil for many days. That's talking about us. This is where the tough part comes in, right? It's easy to follow Jesus, to, look at his own disciples, right? I followed him all the way to his trials, but then I denied him 3 times before the rooster crowed, right? I mean, we're talking about the tough work here, right? It's not easy, right? This is the time period where it's not going to be easy. But what else does the Bible say about this time? Let's go to Revelation 2. I know we've covered it. Let's recap it. Let's go to verse 10. Fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. And ye shall ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Right? So we're asked to be faithful. Go to prison. This is further described in Luke 21. And a great earthquake shall occur in diverse places, and hunger and pestilence and fearful things, and great signs from heaven shall appear. That's a perfect description of the seals being opened, right? But before all these things shall lay all their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the assemblies and into prison, and bring you before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And this shall result in a testimonial for you. Therefore resolve in your hearts not to prepare what you shall answer beforehand. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, against which all of your adversaries shall not be able to speak or resist. So why are we being asked to go to prison and to suffer and to die and to even take the sword? Why are we being asked to do all this? He wants to save everybody, right? Your testimony of love. Go back to 12. Look how Michael and his angels fight Satan. It's through the blood of the Lamb and the word, the sword, right? So that's what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to do battles in the hearts and minds of men. This isn't we're not picking up a gun and shooting somebody. That's not what we're being asked to do. If you're asked to go into captivity ye shall go, right? Okay, let's get back in here. Indeed, you shall also be betrayed by your parents, by your brothers, and kinsmen, and friends, and they shall put you to death. And you shall be hated by all for my name's sake. Yet not one hair of your heads shall perish. But by your patience gain your souls. And when you see Jerusalem besieged by soldiers, then understand that desolation is near. So this portion, verses 5 through 10, is described throughout the Bible. And, we're called as believers to be faithful up to death, right? Do not fear death. What did it say in 12? For they did not love their lives so much. The angels didn't love their lives so much. That was their greatest accolade, right? So anyway, let's jump over to the next one. Okay, let's review 11 through 18. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. He spake as a dragon, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, who had deadly wound which was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from the heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and this number is 600, 66. Okay, so we're going to break this down by as many Bible verses as we can find. Most of what this is going to be described in or affirmed in hereafter is in chapters that we're going to get into. So we're going to do a little peek into our next chapters of Revelation to get a discernment. Before we move on, though, so this is a prophet coming to behold the beast, right? So this beast that's given all of Satan's authority wants to have a John the Baptist, just like Jesus did, right? He wants to have someone come out and proclaim him. He doesn't want to come out and announce himself. He wants someone else to do it for him. And he has all the power, all the authority, and the throne of Satan within his disposal as a human, right? This is the most powerful man, as Daniel said, the most terrible beast he had ever seen. And it caused him to go and need to take a nap from even seeing the vision of this, right? This is the great, powerful beast. Now we're talking about a prophet. It feels like this is a religious leader known globally, and I won't name who that might be, but we can imagine, right? And I think what's important here isn't to name the false prophet and who it's going to be. I think what's important to do is notate his characters, right? What are the characteristics? What is he going to do? And, we can definitely now, in the time that we're living, see the total power within mankind. No, we cannot make one hair on one head, right? We can't do that. We can't make a protein of our own, right? Only God can make life. But can we make an image of a person? Could we give life? Could we give it the capacity to speak? Could we give it the database of here's all the humans that have and don't have it, and here's who we're going to go out and persecute and not persecute? Do we have that technology? I think we do. So could that technology be used by someone to go out and provide a testimony for this Antichrist? Well, let's see what the Bible has to say. Okay, guys. On this particular false prophet, it's really not brought up that I can find specifically on this one. We're going to look at what the Bible has to say about false prophets in just a second. But where you really find data on this specific false prophet is in future chapters of Revelation that we haven't gotten to yet. And so while I've hesitated to bring in future chapters, we're going to do that now because I really can't find any other place where it's really broken out between the first beast, the dragon, the second beast, this false prophet. So let's look at Revelation chapter 16, verse 13. Then I saw 3 impure spirits that looked like frogs. They came out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So there's a little cliffhanger for chapter 16. All right, Revelation 19:20. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The 2 of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. Lastly, Revelation 20, verse 10. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Okay, I use these 3 verses in the future to show you now that these are clearly 3 different individuals that John is seeing through his vision. Okay? I want to jump now, and I want to finish chapter 13 with what it says about false prophets in the Bible. All right, here we go. All right, we're going to put a bow on chapter 13. So let's look at in the Bible where it talks about false prophets. Okay? But I said, alas, sovereign Lord, the prophets keep telling them, you will not see the sword or suffer famine. Indeed, I will give you lasting peace in this place. Right? I hear that so many times today, listening to our news outside of the Bible, or listening to people providing leadership. Don't do anything. If you just don't do anything, everything's going to be fine. We have it handled, right? Don't do anything. You just sit there and be quiet. Let the grown-ups do their job. I see the word deluded used, and I went and looked it up. It means to deceive, absolutely. And, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder within my own church if the things that are given to people aren't to keep them sitting there listening when it was intended to get them to stand up and start acting, right? But let's go on to verse 14. Then the Lord said to me, the prophets are prophesying lies in my name. I have not sent them, or appointed them, or spoken to them. They are prophesying to you false visions, divinations, idolatries, and other delusions of their own minds, right? But I'm drawn to, we talked in our toolbox series, empathy. Why is someone doing that? Is it because they've got a payroll to meet? Is it because they have a big building payment to meet? Is it because their personal aspirations for a private jet, right? Or is it to be included within a group of their fellow, people? And so we all seek to fit in. It's by human nature. And this place where we find ourselves going, I want to fit in with God, right? I'll fit in with other people who believe like me. I'll help people who need the message I have, that ask for it. But this delusions, right? We just saw the word deluded. They were deluded. We're going to be given delusions. Isn't that what happens when we deny the Holy Spirit in our own lives? Then anybody can come in and tell us anything, because we don't know how to use the Holy Spirit. The gift that Jesus said, I'm going to give you this gift when I leave. And we all have it. You don't need to listen to me to tell you what this says. You have this gift within you. If you don't practice using it, then you're likely to be suffering from delusions. You're likely to be deluded, right? It's sad for me, having practiced the use of the Holy Spirit, I don't feel like I'm going to be easily, deluded. Matthew 24, verses 20 through 25. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. But the elect only get deceived if they're not using the Holy Spirit, right? 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of lawlessness. I'm not going to read you the whole chapter, and you'll see dots in here. If you want to go read it, it's a good whole chapter. But I'm going to read you excerpts from chapter 2. Concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, we ask you, brothers and sisters, do not become easily alarmed by the asserting that that day the Lord has already come. Do not let anyone deceive you, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. You know, as we close this up, there's some interesting notes that I want to put in and just have you keep in the back of your mind. You know, throughout all of the Bible, you see in one case where God comes in man's form as Jesus. But all of God's power, his authority, and his throne isn't even transferred to a part of himself. He never gives up his own authority. But you see, Satan sees Jesus come, and now he's 2,000 years later, and he's trying to figure out how, after God shows these people this mighty miracle of a resurrection of these two witnesses and bringing them up to heaven, you know, how do I regain this control? And he transfers power to this king, right? So this power that he has, let's not forget, this is a temporary title deed he has to run earth that Jesus is about to take back from him. And he's trying to figure out, how do I hold on to this? Well, what did God do? Well, he transferred power to Jesus. Well, he didn't transfer all of his power. But what does Satan do in his, he has, you know, this 3-day window of celebration followed by this resurrection of these two people. We go from the man who is, you know, being led by Satan to the man that's engulfed by Satan in all of his chief demons, right? That man gets the transfer of the throne, of the power, of the authority of Satan is transferred to one man. Well, that man, so we got the leaseor, the tenant of earth, Satan, transferring his power to somebody else, subletting his power to someone else, right? I need to do something greater than I've done before. I'm going to try this as my last-ditch effort. And it says in the Bible, he knows his time is short. He still believes he can win, right? So he transfers it to a human. And what does the human do? I can't just speak boastfully of myself. No one will believe me. I need to pass authority. And so he gives authority to the false prophet. Again, you see another subtenant, right, of Satan's authority being given out. An interesting note there. He's able to draw down fire in the eyes of man. It says that. Then it says he's able to do other miracles in the eyes of the beast. I don't have an interpretation that I'm comfortable giving out, but I want you to keep note that of those two things, right? The last thing, as we put a bow on chapter 13, you know, Satan's power to deceive. We are only deceived by our own free will. We are never going to be deceived in the practicing of the principles that Jesus gives us through the New Testament, how to use the new covenant, right? We're not going to be deceived if we follow those principles, if we use the Holy Spirit as the Spirit of truth and as our advocate. So guys, that concludes chapter 13. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you a deeper understanding. Or, you know, hey, we need to go in and do our own deep dive. We need to look at Thessalonians 2, right? There's some good stories in here that we've brushed over. But I hope you enjoy this. I hope it gives you a deeper meaning. I hope it gives you a deeper interest. And I hope that when you go through this and you read it, you understand it, and then you watch the news. You watch the news with empathy. You know, you use your personal control over the temple that God gave you, not to be reactive to them, right? But to have prayer over what's going on, and then have self discipline to do what you need to do. God bless you all. Have a great day.